Good morning, GM folks. Welcome to another episode of Fomo Hour. It's episode 196. The countdown to 200 is on. Today is Monday, September 9th, 2020. It is a cooler, sunny morning here in Chicago today, folks. The city is feeling great. The Bears, incredible comeback win yesterday. Chicago was electric. Those are the only Bears that we like on this show, folks. We are feeling electric in the studio. You know why? Farouk is back. King Farouk back in the house. He's 30 now. Happy birthday, Farouk. How was your weekend? And how was Asia?
Yo, we're so back, baby. Oh my God, I'm so hyped right now. Last day in London. Just turned 30 years old on Saturday. My knees are hurting. My back's hurting already. I don't know if that's a feature or a bug of entering yet another decade, but we're vibing, dude. We are absolutely vibing, Tyler. Thank you guys for holding it down while I was gone, but I can't wait to be home tomorrow, and it's gonna be a big week.
It's going to be a big week. It's already off to a great start. For those who have been tracking the board, we'll get into it here in a bit. Mano likely joining us here in a few minutes. We've got Logan on with us, coming off of a pretty solid U.S. Open tournament. Logan, GM, how you doing?
Hey, good morning, Tyler. Doing really well. Excellent tennis. Sad that it's over, but still plenty more of the season out there. And lots more tennis fans around the world after the last couple weeks. U.S. Open broke all the records again for attendees.
Oh, wow.
And Taylor Swift was there yesterday.
I saw that.
She wasn't watching football. She was watching tennis.
Was that part of their contract with Travis Kelce?
Yes. Hopefully so. I'm down for more Taylor Swift appearances if it means more people are watching tennis.
I love tennis.
The Kelce, I've been wearing the tinfoil hat on the Kelce Taylor Swift thing really since the relationship started. I'm not buying it. So like the contract kind of made sense to me, but I think the problem is now that it's surfaced is they can't end the relationship in line with the contract terms because it'll be too obvious. So now they're probably going to have to extend things. So we'll see. Kelce, yeah, he's enjoying his day off flying to New York for the U.S. Open. I guess NFL players, they probably get the day off after the game.
Well, they played on Thursday. So they
okay.
Yeah. Patrick Mahomes was there too. I mean, everybody that's anybody was watching tennis this weekend, not football.
Well, it was the first time we had a U.S. Player in the final, but he got smoked, right?
Well, men's, yes. Yeah.
Men's, yes. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, we really needed you to clarify that.
U.S. women have been dominant, of course, but it's been like 20 years since a U.S. man has won, but we're going to have to wait another year. Folks, we're talking about more than tennis on today's show. What are we talking about? We'll do a quick market report. We've got crypto stocks closing the worst week ever, but they're back in the green this morning. Van Eck shuttering its ETH futures ETF product. A court, this is huge, folks, ruling against the CFTC in favor of U.S.-based election markets for prediction markets. So that is huge. We've got Roaring Kitty back with his return to Twitter. Market doesn't really seem to care all that much. We'll see if he's washed. Zuzu endorsing baseline markets and Machi ahead of Machi's token today. So that was an interesting one. Blast released their September gold. Frentex seems to quit. Got some thoughts on that. Punks have had a huge weekend. We'll catch Farouk on some of these, catch him up on some of these big sales. We had a Doodles premiere and a big Doodle sale on the back of it and a whole lot more. We've got a lot to cover. Oh, today also our Arbitrum update. Before we get into it, shout out to our new partner, Galaxis. Galaxis is a no-code Web3 platform that empowers creators and communities to become owners. Check out at Galaxis XYZ on X. We are very excited to have them on board. We are also very excited to have Mando, the great Mando, back in the studio with us. Mando, GM, how are you doing?
If you know, you know. You know what I mean? Great Mando. I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. I'm loving the Wimbledon hat I'm seeing. Loving that look. Yeah, good. I've been telling you what I've been doing. This DCAing fucking Bitcoin every single day. Disturbing size as it goes lower, and hoping that this is the bottom. But I've got another 30 days of that to go.
So you're buying the dip, the dippity dip, and the dippity dip.
I'm just hoping that we don't rip too soon, basically. That's honestly what I'm worried about, and that might be ridiculous, but like I do think this market just looks wrong to me. Yeah.
Well, excited to get more into that. Well, Mandos, you're here with us. The shirt is on. I think let's get right into the Mando Market Report.
Ooh.
Who is the man, macro daddy of the land? Can you dig it?
GM. Yeah. So well, I would say we kind of hit peak bear over the weekend. Peak depression, everyone getting super depressed. Bitcoin was at like 52K, I think, on Friday. Yeah, I think it went down that low.
Yeah, it crashed pretty hard there Friday afternoon.
ETH nearly touched 2K. Like, a bit of a war zone about what we needed to do here. It seemingly bounced a little bit. I wouldn't say we're back yet. Bitcoin's back above 55K. It looks like stocks were having a very weak period on Friday just because of some uncertainty about rate cuts. But that was after the jobs figure like slightly missed, and people were worried about that we could get a bit of a weaker recession than expected. Most of the other figures aren't pointing to a bad recession, although I would agree it's the chances of it are going up slightly. But we have the Fed, I think, in a week or so. So we'll be waiting to see what happens there. But I think 50 bips is on the table. I think 25 bips is most likely, but they will be dovish. That's what I reckon. So I think we'll get effectively him saying that he'll probably do 4 rate cuts, or 3 or 4 so far this year. That's what I think we'll see. I think we're expected to see some more wobbling. Like we've already said here that macro people come back. A lot of different markets start to move around this sort of time. You get a lot of volatility around figures coming back, the Fed. You've also got the election this year. So there's just a lot of things that can cause a bit of a wobble in September. It does look like Trump's odds are going up quite a lot with Nate Silver, up to about 64% now.
Whoa.
Which is very high. It isn't really being shown in the Polymarket figures as strong, which is kind of interesting because for a long time, Polymarket was much more aggressively pro-Trump than Nate Silver. And that's since flipped. And people felt like that was because, crypto people are probably a little bit more Republican, it felt like, or at least that's what the data shows. But yeah, it seems as though they haven't really caught up with Nate Silver. Only at 52.46, which is quite a big gap there. At least a 10 bip or 10 point gap between the two of them. And that's making me more bullish as well. I continue to think that October, we're going to see a lot of headlines. And it's difficult for me to paint a bearish one for crypto here. So that's why we've been trying, well, me and Ovi have both been kind of dialing it up over the last few weeks, getting into different positions. I personally have put a lot of my, like I said, I'm betting on Bitcoin mainly here, but that's not because it's the only horse that will do well. It's just, I just feel it's the cleanest trade. But I think you could head back to, I think Bernstein came out today and said that they think 90K if Trump gets elected, which is kind of where I'm at as well. I think we could go to like 90 to 100K if Trump gets elected. There was some light FUD over the weekend about the fact that about the Bitcoin ETFs. You had Jim Bianco, who's a well-known macro strategist, come out and basically say the Bitcoin ETFs are slowly dying. ETH ETFs, obviously, you had some, and they have seen a decent amount of outflows. You've seen about $1 billion of outflows since the 27th of August. So not something to kind of not take seriously. At the same time, and this is for ETH too. ETH is looking even worse. I do think this will come back. It's just a general macro sentiment at the moment. I don't think the Bitcoin ETFs have been anywhere near a failure. I think his benchmark for that is just laughably high. They came in, they've got I think 52 billion of AUM so far, like absolutely wild amounts. Like that's beaten any other first time ETF in history. So I'm definitely not as bearish as him. There was also some FUD over the fact that it was again noted that BlackRock are settling their intraday trades off chain. So if anyone buys the Bitcoin ETF intraday, that doesn't actually end up in buying of Bitcoin intraday. That only happens at the end of the day when the net figure is settled. So they're doing these off-chain transactions with Coinbase, it seems, and there was some FUD around that. In that, the volume figures that are going through are not affecting Bitcoin in any sort of way. So the intraday volumes that you see, they're not affecting Bitcoin, whether they're not leading to Bitcoin volume, and that's something to kind of note. Yeah, so a little bit of FUD around ETFs, but I think that's to be expected given the general bearish sentiment. Bitcoin RSI hit a 3-year low, just over 3-year low over the weekend, which is kind of wild. The last time it was this low was in July 2021, which is when we came off that monster run, particularly in ETH, and just got absolutely hosed. And then we saw a massive rally after that. So sentiment just seems unbelievably low for where we're at. I think part of this as well is like we're already starting to see the dying of some of the dApps that were big this cycle. Like that Friendtech thing, I think has caught a lot of people and just been like, wow, like that doesn't look good. Farcaster, I saw today their daily active users is down 95%. Like
no way.
A big play in the social fi space, which is just completely dropped off. No one talks about it. So we're already seeing some of the things that people were bullish about this cycle not really happening, or ones that were briefly successful, just like nothing going on. And I think that's gotten people a little bit worried again about use cases, which is again why I think the most obvious trade here is probably just Bitcoin. But we've seen a bit of a resurgence in some of the L1s. Sui was the highest, it was the best performing L1 over the last week again. Some of these are starting to outperform Solana. I think it's probably something to like pay attention to at this stage of the cycle, like Sui, Phantom, which are Phantom has its Sonic upgrade and it hit kind of high TPS on that, but just something to pay attention to. Basically, is what I would say. Is that I don't think any of these are coming even close to challenging Solana in terms of adoption. But for a trade, maybe if we do see a rip in Bitcoin, maybe some of these outperform. It does feel like they're kind of setting themselves up to. If you look at some of those charts versus other L1s, they're outperforming. Meme coins have bounced, but definitely haven't been leading the bounce. I would say the majority of the best coins over the last week have been deep in Helium. I don't know if anyone's paying attention to Helium.
I saw that. It was crazy.
The mobile provider in the US, which is starting to have very good network coverage in the US, and I think, let me have a look at their subscribers, but they've been smashing subscribers recently, and they were the best. That was the best performing altcoin last week. They've got 112k subscribers now. It looks like.
Wow.
And this is a market which can get 300 million people.
There's a lot of people doing that now. There's another company that reached out to us, and they're going to be around in Singapore. Up Network. They were at KBW. It's like there was like people dressed as cell phones. I think Snoop Dogg and a few other people are involved. There was one of them dressed as a cell phone, and you were getting a call from Sam Bankman-Fried from prison. It was hilarious. And I should have taken a photo, but this could become quite the use case. Didn't Iggy Azalea start her own phone network? Like this, I feel like, is that the new narrative? Are we buying phone networks?
It does feel like this is if Helium does a good job here. I think some people were scared about like quality of service, and that seemingly is falling away. I actually saw a map of their network coverage this week, and it seemingly covers like all of the US. So, and the price point is pretty competitive, I think. So they have a business model here which could go, if it's not them going worldwide, a bunch of other people will also try and do it, I think, worldwide. So that was the best performing altcoin last week, which I thought was just super interesting. Like deep in and DeFi generally leading, and then some of these alt L1s, there again weren't that many meme coins who are out the leaders. Wow. So people are maybe taking a bit more risk in things that they weren't taking risk in before. But so maybe we're already into the new trends of this market. It does feel like social fi has been beaten to death apart from Fantasy Top. And like I said, meme coins, although I'm bullish on meme coins as a long-term sector. Meme coin dominance. I do think that the pump.fun / oversaturation is going to take a little bit of time, I think, for a lot of these, or at least, there's always a new meme coin. Whereas some of these, I think, are, from a risk reward standpoint, going into the election, could have a good run. Like, if Trump wins the election, Helium could do like a 3x.
Yeah. I mean, there's on the SocialFi thing, like I saw a tweet from Yano last week. I sent it in the chat. So it's not Farcaster is down 95%, it's Degen. But Farcaster still gets 65,000 DAUs. It's not bad, but the other one that's actually leading the charge is an app called Open Social. It has 110,000 active users. It's an Asia-based SocialFi platform. And then you have Lens, but yeah, it's overall not.
So Farcaster, I see right now, daily active users at.
That was last week.
Yeah, that's strange. Why did they?
You know what it is? No, it was the Beanie tweet. He got your ass.
No, it's from Woo. This is from Woo blockchain. Woo. So maybe it's not as bad, but it's definitely down.
Yeah, it's definitely down a lot. I mean, do you know anyone you like? And I'm someone who was really a fan of it. Like, I don't really know anybody that's still on it as much, especially during summer chop, where people leave even Twitter.
Yeah,
I haven't seen anyone. I think the challenge with it was just too much of a Twitter clone. People were clearly moving over for like the degen farming, and it's just hard to replicate Twitter or X. Like you have to have some differentiating features. But we'll certainly see. Open Social appears to be going up only, so that they're doing something right over in Asia. Like, on that note, Farouk, how was the Asia sentiment? Were you following markets? How are people feeling over there?
I mean, I'll say the same thing I say every time I go to Asia and back. In Asia, crypto is not the future; it's the present. And when you come back to the West, it's just a thing of the future. Where Mando's right. I caught up on some news, and people were saying that Bitcoin ETFs are dead, and that we're already kind of like, marking the whole industry is dying. But over there, it's just like, dude, KBW was fucking insane. Like, WebX was cool. Japan is more niche. Like, it was very niche, but like KBW, like every single major founder, everyone was out there, man. Like, it was massive. It's the sickest stage I ever spoke on, by the way. It was so sick. Yes. After the Eiffel Tower one in Paris, but like that was like proper. Like, we were only there for 3-4 days, and just the business that I did over there and the quality of the meetings that I managed to go to and the amount of side events again was just absurd. Every event was packed. I think it was 10,000 people show up to KBW. So it was great. Like, we went to an abstract event, was packed. We did an Arbitrum event with Rock Radio into Crypt, so that was really cool. A bunch of people came. Like, it was just everywhere. It was a lot of people. Barrett Chain event was packed. Like, there was some pretty high quality individuals that I got to meet over there. Funds, a lot of the funds didn't deploy yet because of the market, and they're looking to deploy in Q4. So like, there's the sentiment over there is that, okay, sure, like we'll dip and shit, but like I hope it's not consensus, but everybody's backing out Q4, lads. Everybody say, yeah, Q4. Let's just hope Donnie T comes into office if you want that Q4 pump. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I want to come back to that. So like, is there a bit of a narrative violation like happening right now? So like, back when crypto was pumping and then it dipped, and then we saw the charts, people overlaying like the price of Bitcoin with the odds of Trump winning the presidency. And like, when you overlaid the charts, they looked like they were moving pretty much in line step. And then his odds dipped after Biden was replaced. Well, guess what? Now silver's gotten back up to almost the highs. Like, they briefly hit 70% on Poly Market, after the assassination attempts and after the Biden's debate debacle. But they didn't really spend much time up there. I think 64 was about as high as they really got. Silver's got it back there, but it doesn't feel like markets have responded. I guess that's so. Mando, maybe a question for you: like, why haven't we seen the Trump pump? Or was the Trump pump perhaps was it overly hyped compared to what it was?
I'm waiting for the Trump pump. That's basically part of the reason why I'm going so long is because I think increasingly it looks like Trump will win. So that's why I'll be tuning into the debate on tomorrow. Like, it feels as though
yeah.
I don't know. Those are just Nate Silver gets it right.
I've been following his modeling pretty closely. I think for those who are loosely following it, so Kamala is still ahead in the polls broadly across the nation. She's got a very slight edge. Part of the reason why silver's got it so heavily Trump right now is that Trump historically underpolls, and that his voter base doesn't come out and show through the polls. So he is factoring in, he's modeling that underpolling. So if that holds true, that trend holds true for this election cycle, I would agree. It looks like Trump is somewhat of a commanding favorite right now, primarily because of his performance in the swing states, which is, again, why I'm surprised that Paul market's only 52.47. And of course, we saw, for anyone who, I tweeted about this a little bit on Friday, I was following it, a cohort of just a couple bettors manipulated this $800 million election market for a couple of hours. So there was a weekly derivatives bet that expired on Friday. And there was a 3-hour window where you could bet on, will Kamala or Trump be the winner on Polymarket on Friday. This cohort bet somewhere around like $10 million on Kamala, yes, and Trump, no. They briefly got the odds back to even, but they were unable to pull off the bet. So they lost the derivative bet. I don't know how much they all had. One of the bettors I was tracking had like 90,000 on that, but had bet something like 3 million against Trump. So those bets are down now. At least I haven't followed up, but down at least a few 100,000, I would imagine. But 52.47, I don't know. It feels a little tight to me ahead of the debate.
The more traditional betting markets have Trump a bit higher than this too. I just checked Bet Online. They have Trump at minus 130. I think he was floating around minus 105, minus 110 in the last few weeks. Minus 130 is around 56%. I just did the implied probability. So yeah, a little bit lower there as well. I don't know what the volume is on this. 844 million is a lot, but I mean, that's a pretty notable market.
Yeah, pretty notable. Tomorrow is the main event. I'm sure we'll do a lot of debates prep and the bets you can make on tomorrow's show. So make sure to tune in for that. I think Mando, other than that, what else is coming up? Any big macro events on the radar this week? I think we may have CPI coming. Anything that you're looking at?
You have CPI and you have the ECB this week. I would say there's a lot now. Whereas August was very quiet, you're going to see rolling decisions from pretty much every central bank, like I said last week, about them cutting rates or comments about them cutting rates. And then you're going to see a lot of economic data. So it's going to come thick and fast, I think, for the next few weeks. Tons of data, which could move the market.
Yeah, feels like time to lock in. There's a lot coming here. Well, that was a good roundup of macro. On memes, there really wasn't a whole lot of meme action. I think Mando mentioned that. One perhaps notable, Roaring Kitty still has his ability to move markets. He came back after almost a 3-month hiatus, 2.5 months. He posted a meme of the kid from Toy Story throwing away the Woody doll, but with the Chewy face on it. Much to my chagrin, as a Chewy meme coin holder, so I had picked up a small bag of Chewy the last time. Oh yeah, on this June 27 tweet. And effectively held it through the summer, and now he's throwing it away. So Roaring Kitty does not care about Chewy anymore, it seems. It did move the GME market, though. I think, Logan, you called this out for us over at Lucky Trader. I think we saw, a 70%? Yeah, so decent move off the bottom, almost 100%, but still only at $6 million down significantly.
That's the ETH one. The Solana one, I think, bounced maybe even more. Just in a really quick, little 5-minute candle was pretty absurd. Actually.
Oh yes, this one's at 32 million. Okay.
Yeah, it looks really small now, but when you were zoomed in on the day, it was a pretty notable candle for the time period.
So do we just not care about Roaring Kitty in the meme coin market anymore?
I don't.
I mean, do you guys care?
Yeah, not at all. Really. I didn't even see this happen live. Like, I don't really have the notifications on anymore. And then just came back, checked in. The Chewy bag. It's probably time to just sell the Chewy bags into the dust converter for Epic here. Perhaps I'll do that after the show.
I love how Mando reminds people every time there's like a major rug or like a coin that just like goes to zero. You have a tweet from Mando saying, "Remember, did it happen to you again? Make sure to put your dust to Epic." That's so bullish.
The Ducks remember always.
Always.
And there was one other meme coin story here, and I think it got a little more interesting here this morning. So Machi's, it's been a bit of a saga, but it seems like Machi's meme coin, which is ticker Machi, is going to be live for trading after its pre-sale this week. And the reason it's a little bit more notable is Zuzu commented here at 4 a.m. this morning, or I guess this was yesterday morning. He's calling the novel baseline market's liquidity mechanism perhaps a new primitive for this cycle. So a bit of an endorsement there from Zuzu, I think perhaps raising some eyebrows. And then Machi did post a thread here yesterday as well, talking a little bit more about what the token is and this primitive. He talks about this Afterburner, which is a smart contract that randomly executes leveraged buybacks starting with $1 million in USDB. This baseline value, which is the BLV. So he's saying it's got a minimum value backed by on-chain liquidity. And then the closer you buy to that BLV level, effectively your downside is capped and you've got more upside. The concept of looping and borrowing that they have in here. So there are some interesting mechanisms at play in this pre-sale. But if you look at the comments, I feel like if this was, I wonder if this was anyone else, like would this be taken in a different light, or if the market would be broadly more bullish? But because it's Machi, all the replies are, is this just your next scam? And I think rightfully so, right? To have some skepticism headed into this one with his track record. But there's some interesting stuff here.
Yeah, I think they've already done an excellent job, Tyler. If you remember when this was announced, it was announced as an unruggable meme coin, right? Those were the words that were characterizing this. It's now they've embraced. I don't know if the change was before Suzu's comment or not, but they've embraced the new DeFi primitive. And I was mentioning to you before the show, I think if they would have led with that, and maybe the ticker isn't Machi, like there may be some real steam here if that narrative takes hold. I mean, there's a lot of ifs, a lot of conditionals in there, but new DeFi primitive, I mean, those types of words, as buzzwordy as it is, right? Like those types of things can set off for whatever reason. And say what you will about Suzu, but there's a demographic here of this market that will look to his tweets as, potential influence on the price of the token. So I'm interested to see what happens here. The trading goes live today at noon. Mm-hmm. The token's already been dished out to people who participated in the IBLV. They got their gold from baseline markets. So I'm interested to see what happens. I do not have any. I didn't participate. No disclosures here with any holdings, but I'm curious if the new DeFi primitive is going to take off.
Froke, what do you think? You buying into Machi?
No. But that's just, I don't have much going on Blast. Plus, I haven't been caught up to anything in the last 2.5. I have not made any moves in the last 2.5 something weeks. So, and I won't because I have a massive week ahead. But I'll be cheering from the sidelines for people to make money because we need people to make money right now. So, yes, I hope it's
yes, we do. I like that. I don't have any of this either. So full disclosure, I missed the pre-sale and then just didn't play with it this weekend. I do think it was a good branding change. I think when you brand your token as the unruggable token, all my head immediately goes to is, how are you going to rug this? Like,
100%.
It goes the wrong way. The new token primitive, it's interesting. I feel like we've seen some of like the hybrid NFT meme coins do something similar to this, right? Where you buy the NFT, you can always put it back in the pool to get your initial money back. In theory, the upside is uncapped as well, and your downside is limited. But it does that primitive alone doesn't mean success. Like you still have to have people who want to come buy it. I think that's what I keep coming back to. And then the looping and the borrowing kind of came out as red flags when I looked into this thread. Like, Logan, did you dive into that aspect of this much?
Not a whole lot, but I saw the same comments, down below about over borrowing and what happens then. There, like I said, there are so many conditionals at play here with if thens regarding whatever people can do now. I'm like I said, I'm just interested to see what happens. I'm with Farouk. Hopefully people make money and this isn't a complete disaster. People lose money, things get even worse. Because it would be cool. It would be cool to see a new primitive take off. Those little meta bubbles that create that level of excitement. We could use something like that right now. Whether it's unruggable meme coins, new DeFi primitives, I don't know, but I would take it if that's the case.
There'll be some attention on this one. Plus, Blast needs some action, right? Other than Fantasy Top, I guess Predict.fund launched. There hasn't been a whole lot to do, so perhaps this will gain some steam. In other protocol news, we touched on prediction markets enough today. I don't want to go deep onto it, but folks, this was a pretty huge headline. This broke late Friday evening, so I think some folks perhaps may have missed it, getting started on their weekend. But Kalshi, a U.S.-based election market, won their lawsuit against the CFTC, where they will now be able to list election betting contracts. So the CFTC, there's actually a follow-up suit. They're trying to go live ASAP. I think the CFTC was asking them to wait another 14 days. They're trying to push and go live right now. But this is a pretty massive win. I think if folks haven't been following, like, these election markets have been largely or pretty much banned in the United States. So if that's overturned, I think that's a huge liquidity unlock. So more to come on this, but this is going to be a really important one to follow. In other protocol news, Friendtech, folks, I think Mando mentioned this in his. I think I want to spend a few minutes on this. The news, they effectively, I'm not a tech whiz, but their admin and ownership parameters have been set to OX000 to prevent any further changes. My interpretation of this is that their devs have effectively washed their hands clean. They're not doing any more work on the product. So people have been kind of calling it the death or the end of Friendtech. The price chart is not a great one for anyone who
that's terrible.
Zoomed out.
That shit is terrible. I mean, how are you gonna fucking, build something? Well, no, sorry, launch something half built, take $50 million, and then not even try? Like, it's crazy.
Hear me out.
What?
This is the best possible thing that could have happened for the friend token.
Probably.
Yeah, I think ticker that whatever meta is happening, the ticker is great. Friend is a great ticker. You lose all the execution risk with Friendtech, the app. Community takeover. There's so many little positives here. I own Zero. Not financial advice, but this becomes more interesting to me than ever before. This token,
really,
now that they've washed their hands of it. Yeah, 6.7 mil. I mean, whatever. That's there's not much work. It can't go down that much more. I don't know. It's more interesting to me now than ever before. Honestly, I think as a pure meme coin, kind of like laugh at this little thing that happened during this cycle. It is more interesting to me than ever before.
It's interesting. So you say you're kind of embracing just like the memeability of it. I think Bread Guy, he posted about this as well. Effectively that it's now primed for a true CTO, which is another potential out here. I'm not sure if anyone's going to want to take it over with its baggage. In hindsight, the team doing the 100% community token airdrop was a giant red flag that we didn't pay enough attention to, because at that point they had no more incentives whatsoever to run the project. And it's pretty clear that incentives matter in the crypto space, and they'd already made their $50 million. So Racer and team effectively has run off into.
That's crazy.
I mean, it was a hell of a year for them. I don't know.
That's insane.
I feel like everyone's. I think the haters are victory lapping this and saying this was always the obvious outcome.
It wasn't that obvious.
I don't think it was that obvious.
I disagree with that. Like, I think people think, "Oh, I called it." Yeah, okay, sure, but it's like the same people are skeptical about everything. Essentially, like, you're gonna be right about one thing. Like, if you hate on everything, you're gonna hit. Okay, but like, I think the red flag was when they fired that dude the day before the unlock. No,
Pancakes.
yeah. I think that's when shit started. Like, they started losing so much sentiment on the timeline. Like, they were hot. Shit was hot, but I think the whole 3-3 and everything kind of made it like, they were onto something though. And I think it sucks. I think we should be cheering for things to succeed instead of trying to see if we could be right for one thing to be unsuccessful. Like people are waiting for Farcaster downfall next to be like, oh, I told you about it. But like, they're already like drafting their tweets. But like, you need apps to win because it's the same people that then go and say there's no one building dApps on crypto. It's like, dude, what do you want? Like,
yeah, they hate on everything. Exactly. It's like, oh, you're gonna clout chase a tweet where you victory lap or call that Farcaster.
Now they're gonna hate on Deepin and the helium shit. And then if it falls, I mean, you're right, and if it's right, I mean, oh, there's not enough apps. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. I think we have enough bullshit.
It does make me so. It raises the question. So I feel like a lot of folks still think social fi like as a concept can happen, but like, what does it need to look like? I guess it kind of raises the question of like, so what has gone wrong for Farcaster? Like, what has gone wrong for FinTech? What were they over financialized, or like were the tokens mistakes? Like, what is the right model? I guess some people are saying like fancy top is social fi. Maybe it is. I feel like it's a little bit closer to like gamify. Yeah. And I don't have the answer to this question. If I did, I'd probably be trying to execute on it.
I mean, paid chat rooms, not useful if people post everything on X anyways. Like, I have incentives to post on there because I was getting paid as a creator, I guess, at first. But down the line, I have much more incentives. I'll make way more money building a brand on Twitter, right? Like, having 300,000 followers on Twitter is probably worth more to me than having 1 ETH key on FinTech, right? Like, because I'll just make so much more money on the back of that. So I don't know. I think it was flawed from the get-go. They were onto something with reputation scores and everything, but maybe that didn't work out. I don't know. And
OX5F, that's how I know him. I think he may have changed his handle, but he is launching that Ethos project, which is kind of building on the on-chain reputation score. So I think that's getting closer to launching. So we'll see if that perhaps is a positive that comes out of this. I always question. So I was deep in the FinTech street, so I think that's not a surprise to anyone who's been kind of listening along for a few years. My challenge with like FinTech as a reputation score is who sets your reputation. And in FinTech, it was the largest holders who weren't always good actors. So like you still have to have it's the who's watching the watchman idea, right? Like, so who gets to decide on reputation? That's still an important question to answer. Last comment on that, perhaps timely. Machi, I don't have the tweet up from Looks on Chain, but he's down $16 million.
Dude,
position.
Fuck. I saw that. How rich is this MFer?
He's got enough to splash around that he's not sweating $16 million losses on the friend coin. But perhaps he's even more vested in ticker Machi succeeding here today, even though he might have a little bit less ammo to fire into the secondary. I'll go through a couple more headlines. So we got the Blast Gold for September on Friday night. I think just the key takeaway: Fantasy now in a league of its own. It is in a new DApp weight called Diamond. They got 1.3 million gold to give out here this month. And I think it's pretty much your standard list of apps who are next up. Thruster, YOLO Games, Wasabi, Juice, Blitzwolf, all getting pretty sizable chunks of gold. So the blast farming will continue. I think, Farouk, while you're gone, perhaps the most notable action were punk grails.
Yo, I saw that.
We had the 8 punk sell for 1.5 million 3 days ago, zombie for 240, and then the zombie hoodie, which many are calling one of the best punks in the entire collection.
Sick.
Sell for what?
I mean,
75.
Remember, like the other one who's also one of the best punks in collection was the Ape hoodie, which was Danny. Sold it for, I don't know, 4,000 ETH or something.
I think 3,300. One of the craziest sales.
Cooked. Everybody was hating on him, and then market went to zero. Anyways, so like to me, like those two, like are the like two of them. Like those two, and then that zombie one, the Zombini. That's one of the biggest grails. And then of course, like some of them is super clean, like, but super cool. Love to see it.
And what was like kind of a chop week for NFTs, Punks actually one of the top movers. They're back quietly to a 29.84. So they dipped a couple ETH when the over leveraged buyer effectively got liquidated. But now they're back up 5% on the week. Just kind of taking a look through the NFT board. Again, pretty much chop. Bored Apes are even. Pudgies are down a tick at 3%. Node Monkeys, they're even though it was a volatile week. And I know Logan's shaking his head. We had the Rock Toshi drama. Rock Toshi on his villain arc.
Saw that.
I was a little worried. I still hold a couple Node Monkeys of how this was going to go down. It looks like it's okay. Perhaps we're rooting on his villain arc. Logan, do you have any thoughts on the Rock Toshi? And
I was just blown away. I think you should feel okay. I don't have any exposure to Node Monkeys anymore. I did for a time. I was expecting after Casey's comments. Remember, Rock Toshi came out, said he was co-founder of Ordinals. Then Casey came out and said, "No, not so fast." And the market kind of like pretty quickly shook it off. And then I think the most surprising thing to me was Udi's comments, like sort of backing Node Monkeys. You know, and of course, big embracement of Ordinals as a whole. That was surprising to see somebody of that stature come out and say that. And the market, I mean, to be neutral / slightly up after all of that, I think that's a huge win, in my opinion.
What's up with our pups?
They're just kind of hanging out, chopping at the 0.08 level.
No, I mean our pups.
Oh no!
Oh no!
We don't really talk about pups anymore. Let's pull this one up. Yeah. Oh no is the correct way to respond to pups. Market cap down to 23 million. So I am officially down on my buys around the $30 million mark, which as a quick reminder of pain for me, was up a clean 30x at peak. It wasn't enough for me to hit the sell button. I needed more than a 30x.
He needed the other 2x.
Needed the other 2x.
Have to get that extra 2x.
There was some FUD in the runes world. There was some FUD around the decentralized stuff too. I don't know if you saw that, Tyler. They went
it's fulfilling its name.
Yeah.
Perhaps we should have seen that coming.
Yeah,
it's tough to be it's tough to refresh the runes board. Yeah, only do so if you're seated and you're ready for pain.
I will say it is the worst part of my morning. Every morning I go through for the newsletter and I check on the ETH NFTs, Bitcoin, Solana, and I do runes. And I always hate to click the button because I know it's going to be bad. And if it's not bad, then I'm immediately elated. But that's rare.
The first time it's not bad. Maybe you should sell some.
I think was it Udi? He had another good comment on this. He was saying it's somewhat telling that everyone's kind of arguing over who created ordinals, but no one's arguing over who created runes. Yeah, perhaps a sign.
That's so funny.
Of the times there. So it's not great. Decentralized is truly decentralized. Fuck. Interesting experiment for the cyber. I mean, they spent like $1 million to get that. So this is the number 2 rune.
You remember out of the gate, the pre-rune went nuts.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like 8,000-10,000 USD. I think. I mean, it was. I'm talking about the pre-rune ordinal.
Right.
It was really steamed coming out of the gate.
Even this, it's down. I mean, it was 90-95% higher.
That chart's horrible,
dude.
They all look like this.
That is so bad.
Other than dog is like. I mean, what are the top runes? So we've got dog is doing okay. It's hanging at 250 million. Let's look at the all-time chart. So, I mean, it was closing in on $1 billion at one point. I think it got into the 900s, got rejected off there, and then kind of down only ever since. That's the top performer, and it's not really close. R6 hanging out 50 million. The pump, hoping that the pump to 100 million that we saw in the last month was not the only exit pump.
I was a co-founder of Ordinals. I guess I have to tell you guys. I've never said that publicly, and to my knowledge, nobody has either. But it's true. Before Casey, I was already working on implementing in NFTs on Bitcoin. When he told me he believed he was the best person in the world, I agreed. So yeah, figured I'd let you guys know.
There's clearly some history there, some bad blood.
There's some beef. There's some beef there. there's something.
Perhaps more will come out over time. That was mostly in NFT world. Doodles had a big week, and they released their new music video. They had the
Good.
premiere of the film Doolsville and the Doodleverse. And then we saw a nice little rare sale.
You know what?
So this cat sold for 26 ETH, 60K.
You know what? This guy, this Julian guy, CEO, Mr. Hogan, deserves a lot of fucking credit. Took over the thing. Incredible work. I saw this Pharrell stuff this morning. Actually, I was catching up on some work and on the timeline. Saw the Doodles pic with like Pharrell like posing and fucking Julian. Hats off. Hats off. I now like if we see a resurgence of NFTs, they're in my top 3. It's hats off. Like I love the whole Bored Ape art comeback. I like the energy on the timeline. Azuki's got a big September coming with Anime Chain. And then you have, I mean, Doodles are fucking like cooking. So I love it.
I love it too. We are fans of Julian Hogan.
Yeah.
Perhaps we'll get him back on the show here in the days and weeks to come. That they are busy, folks. We've got about 10 minutes left. It is time for our Arbitrum update here. So a few topics. We've been talking about Stylus a bit over the last couple weeks. We got a nice little primer here from Stephen Goldfeder on what it is. And I think, again, the game changer here is that Stylus allows devs to write Rust, C, C++, fully operable with EVM. So there's, think use cases like more advanced cryptography, cryptography curves that aren't available on EVM precompile existing ML libraries. These are all now available on Arbitrum. And we are starting to see some impact of that in projects that are building. So superposition, Stylus season and X superposition summer has started. So what is superposition? It's flashy, folks. So they are introducing the concept of universal shared liquidity, where liquidity exists in a state of superposition. They're saying this will unlock the long tail AMM. An advantage of this type of order book is permissionless access to universally shared liquidity, having one shared pool instead of several liquidity pools, and then protocols can be built on top of the order book and then utilize this liquidity for themselves. And then they go on in this announcement thread to kind of talk about some additional use cases, how they're leveraging account abstraction and Arbitrum Stylus to make this happen. It seems like a very big deal. I mean, liquidity, one of the most important concepts in crypto and tokens, in protocols. And now with Stylus, they're able to perhaps unlock more liquidity pools across Arbitrum, across chains. So I think we still want to see a few more examples from this, but a very important building block here from superposition. And then, another development out of Stylus here is that the Renegade protocol. This is the first on-chain dark pool now live on Arbitrum. Logan, I know you were looking into this one. Are you able to walk us through what Renegade?
Yeah. So I didn't know what a dark pool was, but I looked it up. It's apparently, as they've noted here, it accounts for nearly half the TradFi market, but basically allows for these big parties to trade with themselves without impacting the market. So they call this a dark pool. And previously, you mentioned the cryptography updates now available with Stylus. They're allowed to utilize kind of those improvements to enable those dark pools on chain. So allowing parties to take advantage of that and not lose to things like MEV bots, copy trading, arbitrage type stuff that kind of comes with blockchain and the transparency of them. So this is really, really cool. Renegade, also an awesome name as an aside.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's a really, really cool name. But taking advantage of that, very clear, direct impact of Stylus, with the advancements in cryptography. I think if you're someone who, I'm not the technical person, but if you're somebody who is a huge cryptography nerd, there's no better time probably to be messing around with things like this with Stylus now on Arbitrum. Seems like we're going to unlock some use cases that had only been probably dreamed of before, and now enabled, Renegade being one of them with the dark pools. Dark pools, Renegade, done an excellent job on the branding as well. Seems really, really cool.
Well, I mean, even for a casual trader like myself, I still want to avoid MEV bots. I've been victim to sandwich attacks, doing casual trades on chain. So there is a real benefit to trying to
Yeah.
avoid that. And then
I'm sorry, Tyler. I was just gonna, and you can actually do it as well here with Renegade. I think they call that out in the thread. Like, this isn't just institutions. That's where it's utilized in traditional finance, right? Like these major institutions that are moving massive size that could impact the market. They're doing so in the dark pool to avoid that. Here, I mean, you have a much bigger size than most participants, right? But like you can participate, I could participate. And that's a huge advantage to miss out on those MAV bots and things like that.
Well, and I may not be worried about being copy traded, but perhaps there are whales out there who don't want to be copy traded, right? And here's that's one of the advantages of dark pools is you can act anonymously. Like, this was a big deal back in the NFT run in 2021. I remember guys like Andy 8052 or D's. We were all tracking their wallets.
Oh,
and
I have notifications on for both of you. I've had them on for a long time. It's an archived chat on Telegram now, but at one point in time,
and I remember folks saying, "Oh, well, I'm going to have to spin up some alts so I don't just nonstop get copy traded." And there is some real utility to that. So shout out to Renegade. This sounds pretty cool. Stylus making it happen. So Stylus summer really is happening on Arbitrum. In fact, they've got so many bullish updates and they just keep coming. So shout out to Arbitrum. We love partnering them with them here on a weekly basis. That, folks, I think we're going to wrap up today's show. Quick note, we do have an announcement with Kraken coming tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. We'll have Rollbit spins back later in the week. Tomorrow, I think you are out, but then we're going to have you back for good.
I am out tomorrow. We've got some pretty big announcements going live in like an hour or so or more. I don't know. I'm freaking out. So this is like, anyways. This is like the biggest thing we've announced since merging with Decrypt. So it's gonna be big. Like twice a year, we have something big enough to give me a panic attack, and it happened an hour ago. So we're out there. And then tomorrow I'm out because I'll be on the plane flying back to Canada. And then I am on the East Coast for the rest of the year. I'm so excited. Big couple of months on the way. And we have 6 Rollbit spins this week. So stay tuned. Big wins coming. Big wins. We're winning a punk this week. There's going to be a punk.
It's going to be a big day. It's going to be a big week. You heard it here first, folks. As for today, thank you for tuning in. We will be back tomorrow to break down all of today's action. As for today, go have a great Monday. Go make it a beautiful day. Goodbye.
Peace out, y'all.